Hey everybody, welcome to LegFi. LegFi is your tool to manage your chapter's operations, including members, billing and collections, communications, events, and more. It's built to put the power in your hands, so LegFi comes not only with all the tools that you need, but also an in-depth help center. And if you find yourself with a problem that you can't solve alone, the LegFi support team is there to back you up. Today we're going to cover how LegFi can help you budget, bill, and collect more from your members. Before we get started, I want to make sure that you know where to find the webinar that we did in November, where we really walked over some of the basics for new officers. So if you'll come over here to the question mark icon, that's going to take you to our Help Center. And click right here on the Getting Started section, which are resources for new admins. And you'll click here on the LegFi Basics Plus link. And this is going to take you to last month's webinar. And once this webinar is recorded and edited, we're going to put this up here for you too. So as we keep adding new resources for new LegFi admins, they're going to all show up here for you. All right. So with that out of the way, let's jump in. Let's start with talking about your budget. So we're going to click on the budget tool here. This budget tool is where your chapter can build a projected budget to better track chapter income and expenditures. I'm going to stop here for just a second and speak generally about creating a budget. So creating a budget is really an important step in setting your chapter up for financial success. And there are a couple of tips and tricks for making sure that your budget is built out correctly. So to start, we'll talk about expenses. This is a great starting point for budgeting, is to take a look at defining your fixed versus flexible expenses. So fixed expenses are those that are required. Think like rent, meal plans, national dues, or insurance. And flexible expenses are based on what you use. So think about expenses for your formal or apparel charges or social fees. Once you've identified your fixed and flexible expenses, you're ready to begin creating your expense budget. So to create your budget, you're going to want to review the previous year's expenses for an idea of what to expect. And this is going to be easier for groups that have maintained their budget reporting in LegFi. But if you have an organized file system for invoices or access to view bank statements, you can get an idea of the purchases that you've made in the previous year. So if you don't have access to that kind of reporting that would make the forecasting expenses easy for you, let's make it your mission to lay the foundation for the officers that come after you. New officer transition season is a great time to get things cleaned up in your account and get yourself set up for success for the rest of your term. So once you reviewed your previous year's expenses, you're going to want to input your fixed cost, and those are items that are required. And then the final step is to just review and add priority flexible expenses, and then committee your officer budgets that are requested. So once you know how much your chapter will pay out in expenses, then you can budget your chapter's income to cover those expenses. So you want to ensure that you've accounted for the fixed and flexible expenses, savings, and contingency plans when you're budgeting for what your chapter's income should look like. And then you're going to make sure that your billing is enough to cover your chapter's expenses and adjust fees like chapter dues, rent, meal plans, and national dues accordingly. Adjusting the expenses may be necessary if an increase to chapter dues is not an option. So if your chapter is unable to increase those chapter dues, no big deal. You'll just need to review those flexible expenses, the ones that are not required, and make some cuts as needed. This is also a great time as you're coming into this role to review your chapter policies and bylaws for items such as late fees, fines, or early payment discounts, and determine how those policies can affect member payments. Late fees are really great incentives for ensuring timely payment from members, but you shouldn't rely on them as a fixed income. Any money that are received from these should be considered sort of bonus funds, and you wouldn't want to account for those in your projected income. So once you've gone through and you've built up this budget and you've determined your income and expenses, you're ready to enter your budget details into LegFi. And our budgeting tool makes creating and maintaining a budget pretty easy, and it incorporates your budget and accounting reports to save you some time. So once you've sort of built out what your budget should look like, you're going to be able to enter that into LegFi by clicking Manage Budget. And from here, you're going to select each category, and then you'll enter your expected revenue for each month throughout the year. And you'll do this for each category, and as you go, it's going to adjust your total. And then if you click away, it's going to save that for you there. You're going to do the same thing for the expenses and just go through and again, click on each one and enter your expected expenses for each month. And then once you've done that, you can go back to the budgets tool to see how it's adjusted the revenue overview. So here under the transactions section, this is where you're going to ensure that the actual figures for your revenue and expenses are correct by making sure that we're categorizing each transaction. So if you click on a transaction that is listed as uncategorized, you'll be able to go through and select the correct category. So whatever that may be. And then click off to save that change. And then again, you can just click here. And depending on what it is, you'll go through and find the correct category and click off again. And so that's going to update your budget tool and what that looks like and show you the expense category breakdown. Under the transactions section, you can also add income or add expenses that are processed outside of our system. So if you're making payments out of your bank account, your external bank account, you can still record those expenses here so that your budget tool is up to date. And if you were to receive any income, like a donation or something like that through cash or other means, you could also go ahead and add that income in the transaction section here and record those so that it's properly showing up in your budget tool as well. So now that we've talked a little bit about building out your budget and then how to manage that, let's take a quick look at the invoices section and talk about actually billing your members. The invoices module allows you to create and manage charges or invoices for your members. So to get started, you'll click Create New Invoice. You can filter by member group and add everybody all at once. You'll come down here to Add Charge. All right, and we can go ahead and add the charge title. It's important to make sure that your charge title is intuitively named and that you keep in mind who your audience is going to be. So maybe that's the student members who are within your organization, but a lot of times it's also their parents. So instead of just putting chapter dues, you may want to quantify that as monthly chapter dues so that the parents have a little bit of a better idea of what to expect for recurring versus one-time charges. All right, then you'll select whether that's going to be a recurring or a one-time charge. If you set up a recurring charge, you'll get a custom billing schedule that you'll set up down here. It looks just a little bit different. You'll put in the amount for that recurring charge and a charge description. And then I'm going to pause here and talk a little bit about how you can, as you're setting up your billing, still be supporting that budget and still be using LegFi's tools to make budgeting for your chapter a little bit easier. So in our last webinar, we talked a little bit about Treasury accounts and how to get those set up. So as a reminder, Treasury accounts offer a bankless solution to help your organization manage your finances, and they help mitigate some of the frustrations and just the pitfalls of other options like bank accounts or peer-to-peer apps or cash collections by providing unlimited FDIC insured accounts that each chapter can configure based on their needs. Treasury customers can create multiple Treasury accounts for specific areas of operations like housing or social events, recruitment, meals, philanthropy events. You can set it up based on each officer's needs. So for every officer budget, you could have a separate Treasury account. And you can check out the LegFi Treasury webinar or our help articles on our Help Center if you need a refresher on how to set those up. But each account has an unlimited number of Treasury cards, and chapters can create multiple physical or virtual cards that are assigned to specific members who can then begin immediately using those cards for any purchases in app, in store, or online. And so because you can use these Treasury accounts to manage funds for multiple sort of people and officer budgets and different needs. It is really helpful in maintaining your budget and ensuring that officers have access to the funds they need without the hassle of requesting a transfer or a check. So the way to do that is to fund your Treasury accounts directly from member invoices to automatically deposit payments where they need to go. And it's really easy to do this. Under the deposit financial account section, you'll see the Treasury accounts are available for you here. And based on whatever charge you're creating, you'll just select the appropriate Treasury account. So in this case, we're going to just put it in the basic operating account. And now when this member makes their payment, this charge is going to go directly to the operating account to be used as needed. And the same thing would happen if we wanted to set this up as their monthly rent. Then we could just go ahead and deposit it straight into the housing account, and it would be immediately available. So the nice thing about that is it really relieves some of the hassle that treasurers have with other methods where maybe you're asked to transfer money onto like a prepaid card, or you need to write a check for your officers or pull out cash even in some cases for your officers to make payments for their activities. And using Treasury, you're able to set up a card with spend limits for each officer, and you're able to go ahead and have those dues and fees that are coming in directly fund their accounts as needed. So it's a really great way to kind of help keep your budget on track. You're also going to select your revenue category. So select the revenue category that's most appropriate, and then you're going to set up a custom billing schedule. So again, for a one-time charge, you're just going to have one section here. But when you're doing a recurring charge, you can add multiple cycles. So you're going to click your start date. Click your start date here, and select the due date. We have these handy little links that we can kind of quickly set them up, 2 weeks or a month later. And then if you want to add a late fee for that charge, you'll set that up here. And then you're going to set the date that late fee becomes active. So if our due date is the 23rd, then maybe we want to say, by the 9th, if they haven't paid in full, we want that $10 to apply. You can do the same thing with an early payment discount. So if they pay by a certain date, the full amount, then they can get a certain discount, $25 or whatever makes the most sense for you. And then when you come down here, you'll set up, again, you're starting your due date, and then the late fee is going to be reset for each charge cycle. And it doesn't have to be the same amount. So you can do $10 on the first and $15 on the second. Really easy to set that up for you. And you can have as many charge cycles as you want, so you can set this up for the whole year, all in one fell swoop. When you're done setting up the custom billing schedule, you'll click Save Changes, and it's going to add your charge here. And then down here, you'll be able to add a message to your invoice. So this is a great place to put any sort of little reminders, whatever that may be, whether that's asking them to, remember to enter their study hours or report their GPA. Maybe you're having an event and you want to remind people about, some planning around that event. Whatever it may be, you can put a message on here that'll actually show up on your invoice. And then you're able to preview your invoice before you send that out. So you'll see that you're going to have the member name up here at the top. It's going to show you about newly active charges made on the account and give them information. So if it's got a late fee, it's going to make sure that they know that ahead of time. And then your message will be down here at the bottom. So once you've taken a good look at this, if everything looks good, you'll just click Send Invoices. And those invoices will go out, and the outstanding invoice section is going to start showing you those. And once you have these outstanding charges that you've invoiced out to your members, there are some actions that you can take after the fact. So down here in the Actions section, you're able to edit, edit a charge, delete a charge. You could record a payment that was made outside of the system for this right here. And you can also create a payment plan. So if you click on Payment Plan, it's going to pop up and it's going to let you split this balance by however many payments that you'd like to bring this out to, or you can even switch it over to percentage mode so that they're paying like 50% on payment 1 and 50% on payment 2. And again, you can add as many payment cycles as you want for that. So once you've done that, and set your active dates, you can give a late fee for each of these payment plan options. So we could give them an additional $5 late fee if they are 3 days past due on your payment plan dates, and then create that payment plan. And it's going to go ahead and break that down for you. And so it's going to show up in this section as individual payments that they're expected to make, so that it's really easy for you to keep up with those payment plans that you're instituting with your members. So do be mindful of using that as a way to kind of keep track of these payment plans that you're setting up for members, so that you're not having to just try and remember, verbal agreements that you've made. And speaking of members who may have late payments or may have other communication needs, let's take a quick look at our communications module, because this is a great set of tools that can help you, keep your members engaged and make sure that they are, making their payments on time. So through our communication system, you can send a text message to a group of members, or easily filter by different categories. So you could send it to all of your alumnus members with outstanding balances, all of your current members, or you could go through and select just the members that you want to reach out to. You'll just simply compose the message down here and click send, and it's going to text everybody at the cell phone number that they have associated with their account. You have an email tool that works just the same way, just goes to their email. But you can also do other things, like you can send out surveys to your members. We can share documents, so you can basically kind of create like a resource library for your members where they can, or where you can stash, new member education tools or chapter bylaws, things like that. And you can even check out this communications log. This is going to have all the emails and text messages that you've sent on LegFi to your members. And you'll be able to see from this page, when that was sent out, if they opened that email or that text message, and you're actually able to view it as well. You can also resend an e-statement. So we email out statements automatically on the 3rd and 15th of every month to make sure that members are regularly updated about the activity on their accounts. But if you need to send out another statement on demand, if a member says they can't find theirs, something like that, you can do that through this portal. And then we can even send out on-demand paper statements. So if you have a member or an alumni who's just not responding to these e-statements, they're not responding to their email, then you are able to send out an individual paper invoice to those members, and they're mailed out within 2 business days. So sometimes that can help too if you've got somebody who's just not so great at responding to their email and is accruing a balance. There's also this collections module, and this has some other tools for you. So communications are a little bit more broadly applicable, but everything under here is really engaged towards helping members who are past due be made aware of that fact and trying to make communications with them. So we have past due emails. There's a little template in here that you can edit, and then you'll select the members to email. It's going to show you over here what their current outstanding balance is. And again, you can easily filter that by group or search for the member name here. Once you've selected the members, you'll just go ahead and schedule the past due email, and then it's going to go out to them. And so it shows you that these 3 emails have been sent out. And similarly, we have past due calls. So again, if you've got somebody who's not great at responding to email, doesn't seem to be using their email, or in cases where maybe you've had somebody who's graduated with a sizable balance and they, never updated their email outside of the school email address. You can use these past due calls to schedule automated calls to the phone number that we have on file. So you'll be able to write out a script, and then you'll go through, and if you have members who don't have phone numbers in the system, you're going to see add phone number so that you can go in and get that added. But you'll just go through and select each member and then schedule past due calls. And they're going to be made daily at 3 p.m. So, and that's Eastern time. So 3 p.m. Eastern time, 12 p.m. Pacific time, your members will go ahead and get a call just reading out that script for us. Now, if you do have members who have accumulated a large balance and after repeated attempts at contact, you've been unsuccessful in getting them to make any payments, then your chapter could make the decision to submit them to an external collections agency, and you can do that through this section here. You'll click here, and then it's going to show you if they need an address on file or a birth date. Again, it's really important to be getting that information from your members on the front end, but you'll be able to go through and collect any members who need to be sent to a collections agency. You'll select them, and they're going to show up over here. And then you're going to fill out your contact information. You'll be the person that's facilitating communications with the collections agency. And then you're going to want to read through this agree to collect contract. After you've read through this, if you accept, you'll click here and then submit to the external collections agency. And under our collections portal, the information for that agency is found here so that you can see who they are, get access to their website, and their contact information. And so all of these, the communications and the collections tools, are great ways for you to utilize the system to really try to increase your collections through LegFi and make sure that members are making timely payments, that they're sticking to their agreements with the chapter, and that you guys are seeing a substantial cash flow and that everything is moving smoothly. And so before we wrap up today, I want to highlight some other ways that as a new officer, you can ensure that you're getting the most out of your LegFi subscription. One of the first things is to make sure that you're adding in your members in a timely fashion so that they can go ahead and get their account set up. It's best practice to add new members immediately after they accept their bids, after they go through that recruitment process. Go ahead and get them added into the system so that they can go ahead and get those accounts set up and have them sign the contract and everything. And then as a head administrator for your chapter's LegFi account, we do recommend that you log in regularly, about once a week, to review your account and keep an eye on your collections. Regular communications with past due members is also essential, so that's really why we went into those communications tools. Don't forget that our communication and collection modules offer a lot of quick and easy ways to reach out to those past due members and kind of keep track of them. So as you're logging in about once a week, also make sure that you're checking on anybody who's sort of habitually past due and reaching out to them regularly. And then lastly, one of the best ways to make sure that you're getting the most out of your LegFi subscription is to let LegFi process all of your collections. It's best practice not to accept cash, check, or peer-to-peer payments for dues. These outside methods leave a lot of liability on the officer. Cash or check payments have to be deposited in a timely manner and then manually recorded on the member accounts, and they're frankly easy to lose or to forget who's throwing a lot of cash at you, or there's a lot of liability on you if you're reporting, say, $40 and they say they gave you 60. So accepting payments via cash is always sort of a risky move. But accepting payments through peer-to-peer apps like PayPal and Venmo also leave you with an added headache these days. As of January 2022, the IRS has instructed these apps to report users who are accepting more than $600 through the app. And so if you are collecting cash dues from your members, you're going to reach that threshold pretty quickly, and you're going to receive a form that you have to file with your personal tax returns. They're going to put that liability for those funds collected on you and count that as your personal income. So, it's really best practice not to use those peer-to-peer apps. And they also still have the same sort of pitfalls that you do with cash, which is that you've got to transfer money from, whatever account is attached to your PayPal or your Venmo into the chapters account, and you've got to record that, manually. So if you let LegFi process all of your collections, then member accounts are immediately up to date, and there's no additional liability on you, and it'll just make sure that your reporting is also as up to date and complete as possible. All right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again in January for our last webinar in the series, where we're going to talk about ways to further enhance LegFi's impact on your chapter. Have a great one.